What is going on, everyone? We are here with another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. We're in the new year, we're having fun. We still got the same stuff going on. We got new artists, new stories, new music, and I'm excited for today's interview. I am here with Lola today. Lola, how are you today?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, of course. It's super exciting to really just I'm building up to 100 episodes and I'm getting real close to that mark. So it's crazy to me that 2 years ago I started this whole thing and to where it's come now to all the artists I've met from all over the world and from all kinds of different genres. And I'm definitely super excited to have you on because listening to some of your music and stuff like that, I'm a huge fan now. Like I love what you're doing. I love kind of your whole story and where everything's going with your music and I'm super excited to have you on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No, of course. So kind of just really hopping into the first question is it always starts with the basic of basics, but it really just helps set up the whole entire show is where did everything kind of come about for you? Because I know for some people it starts at such an early age, the day they were born, they start humming nursery rhymes and stuff like that. But then someone like myself who really only started the whole songwriting and producing aspect of things back in 2018, which was only a few years ago. So it's always cool to really just hear the background story and how artists started. So kind of for you, where did everything start for you?
Yeah, so I started taking piano lessons because my parents kind of put me in lessons when I was in first grade. And then I just continued taking lessons throughout college. That was like from age, I don't know how old you are in first grade, like 7, 8 maybe.
Yeah.
And 21 basically 22. And growing up I never practiced. I loved music, but I never really liked to practice it, and I kind of just did it because my parents forced me to, like.
Mhm.
So I was able to kind of play pieces that I was forced to learn, quote unquote, but I never really like had a joy for it or passion for it until I was a sophomore in high school. I was in a band for the first time, and then I realized, hey, playing piano is kind of cool. I'm gonna actually start practicing more. I started practicing for like hours a day, and I
Mhm.
started learning all these classical pieces. And then in this band too, I literally didn't even know what a bass guitar was coming into high school. Like I really not educated like in music that much because in middle school and elementary school they just didn't have that. And so I started performing every week, getting experience at these assemblies we would do, and I just loved it. I started playing piano and singing at the same time, and then I started picking up a bass. And then my junior year of high school I started writing music. So really my sophomore year was when I just became fully immersed in music. My junior year I just realized that that is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life and what I was kind of meant to do.
Yeah.
And then I released my first song my senior year. So it was really building up in high school. And now I work on music full time and release music all throughout college. That
That
answers.
no, and that's just it's super super cool to hear stuff like that because you can sit there and listen to a big time artist and be like, yeah, like they're one of my favorites, like they have really cool songs, like I love them, but at the end of the day, it's just to me it's always really cool and special to hear how they actually started, where they picked up their first guitar, where they first touched the first keyboard or just when the singing actually started. So I always love that question and it really just kind of sets everything up and kind of talking about some big name artists and stuff like that, which is kind of lead us into this next question is talking about inspirations. I people know I could sit here for hours and talk to you about people that have influenced me over the years through music and stuff like that. I always just love to say is Chris Daughtry. Hopefully one of these days, if I mention his name on all these episodes, hopefully he'll hear it one day. But he's a huge inspiration for me. I mean, I love his vocals, I love his songwriting, and just everything that he's done is just he's a huge inspiration for me when it comes to making music. So kind of my question for you is who are some artists that you kind of really get inspired by when it comes to writing and singing music?
I love that question. So when I was in high school and I was in my band, my junior year of high school, I had a lot of friends who liked the Beatles. And growing up, my parents liked the Beatles, but I was always like, "Shut that off, mom! That's like old people music." But then when I finally started, being in a band all the time, and there's a lot of, like your typical band dudes, they like 70s rock and the Beatles, and you know what I mean, like those. I've just never been around people like that. Like I've never been around like band geeks before, I guess. Like myself, and it really kind of turned me into, someone who really loves 70s music and Beatles. I started listening all the time. I was like, wow, and I got to know like every single Beatles song, and I started listening more to Queen. Like I'd grown up listening, I knew the popular songs, but I just never really dove into it because I'm like, oh, that's for older people. But as I was in this band that was playing so many music, like I literally my first week in this band, I had to perform a Beatles song I didn't even know. And then now I listen to it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to perform that. I didn't even appreciate it back. It was definitely a really big influence when I kind of was originally immersed into wanting to do music full time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then as I continued on, I really just loved everything about the 70s and just became super inspired to write from the Beatles. And a lot of the storytelling in my music is inspired by Beatles storytelling. And then my senior year, I still took that Beatles inspiration, but it was mixed with a lot of indie vibes. I feel like in 2018, that's when I graduated high school as my senior year. I feel like a lot of people started, or I feel like, Tyler the Creator and Next Orange County started becoming more popular and less underground. And I really got into all of that music. So I kind of took those vibes and mixed it with sort of the Beatles storytelling vibes, and that was really big inspo for me. Now I would say my biggest inspirations for writing music, I still always have, the Beatles at heart and that little
Yeah.
storytelling
Yeah.
aspect. But I feel like my newer music is more taken inspiration from Tyler the Creator, Lana Del Rey, and Harry Styles. That's like just the perfect three, that I'm inspired by right now.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. I mean, I love all those artists that you named, especially going back way to Queen and the Beatles and stuff like that. And really the key word that I kind of just took from all that is the storytelling aspect, because that kind of is going to lead into this next question once I get done with my spiel here. Everyone knows that the spiel always comes up for this question, but the storytelling aspect behind songwriting is just, it's so cool and so unique, and that's really what draws me in to having artists on the show, is their storytelling. If I can sit there and listen to a new artist that I've never heard of, never met before, and can sit there from start to finish and picture this whole story, then at the end of the day, that's what I feel like a successful songwriter is one that can sit there and tell a story and help other people and affect other people with their story. I always have to quote Garrett Walker, who was on the show. I mean, that guy is something else. I mean, the quote that he gave was just it. I use it every day now, and it's just the songwriting process is like a puzzle. You have all these pieces kind of scattered around, and eventually you start putting these pieces together. You put the border together, you put the middle together, and by the end, you have this full masterpiece, this full thing that you've created. So obviously, artists know, like yourself and like myself, is that there is no rhyme or reason when it comes to the creative process. I mean, it can kind of be all over the place. I've heard people start with melodies and work on the lyrics from there, or some people like myself who love lyrics. I start with the lyrics and then focus on the melody afterwards. So, my kind of question for you, which is the third question here, is what is your creative process like when it comes to writing music? Just because I know you have so many cool songs out there, but just what is kind of the whole process like when it comes to creating a song?
Well, I love the puzzle thing you said because I never really thought about it that way, but that's kind of true. I mean,
Yeah.
with how at least, and I feel like a lot of other songwriters can definitely relate to that because it's true. A lot of the time, I feel like I'll have something that I want to write about, and then be like, "How do I get there?" Like, and then sometimes I'll just think of a line because I want to write about this situation. I want this line, but I also want to talk about this and this specific example. How do I piece those together? And I feel like over the years, my songwriting process has kind of changed, but I still kind of like try a bunch of different things. At first, when I started songwriting, and what I still kind of do, I guess, for the majority of the time is I'll be on piano and I'll just have my voice memos on and I'll just start improvising. Like maybe I'll have a concept in mind, maybe it'll just be completely random, or I'll have like a line I want to go off of. But I'll usually just like play chords and just sing random stuff until something just sounds cohesive and I'm like, oh, like that kind of sounds cool. And then maybe I'll go off of that. I'll write the whole song on piano. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll bring it to one of my producers and then play them a demo. And I'm not very good at producing. I was a music production major in college, but I ended up changing my major because I am very bad at technology and like couldn't. But I'll bring it to them and I'll be like, I want it to be like beep beep, and then I want this sound to be here, and I want at this line for it to go like woo, I have my little language to speak to
Yeah.
produce. And so that's something I'll do. Another thing that I really enjoy doing too is writing over beats. Um, as much as I love creating, melodies and stuff, just lately I've just been really loving writing over beats because it really just takes a little bit of the stress away. And I feel like there's still so much you can do with melody and lyrics. And I think I've also found that when I've written to a beat, it allows me to make cooler melodies because I'm not as focused on what chord sounds good after which. And I don't know, just hearing, like, I don't know if it's the same for you, but just hearing some production underneath while I'm, writing lyrics just kind of inspires me a bit more. But I really do a mix of a bunch of different things. Sometimes I'll write lyrics first, but it's not my favorite. Lately I've been doing that, which has kind of been a cool exercise because I've been under the weather for like the last like I don't even know, like 2-3 weeks. And I haven't been able to sing. So I've had to learn to, write, a poem or write lyrics and then just think about later what I can do with it or come back to it. But my favorite's probably the voice memos and either, a beat or a piano, just improvising and seeing what happens.
Yeah, and I mean those two words that you just used a second ago is voice memos. I mean, if I don't have an artist that comes on the show and says voice memos for the third question, then honestly, like I don't even know if they're a real artist at that point. Because
Yeah.
if you don't have hundreds and hundreds of voice memos on your phone from just random stuff, whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., then you're not doing the whole songwriting process justice at that point, honestly. Like you need to have the voice memos.
I don't know how people do it without, because I've had, I've known people, I guess, before, seen documentaries where people just have a journal and they just write down. That's great. But like, I could not write a song without my notes app and voice memos. I don't know how people do it. I can't remember. Like, I'll
Exactly.
session for like 12 hours and the next day I won't even remember the title of the song. Like, I don't know how to, you know what I mean? I'm just looking at my phone right now and I have, let's see, I have 3,355 untitled voice
Oh
memos.
no, that's a little more than me, but like I'm up there. I am up there with mine.
You delete yours too? Because I can't delete mine. Like I feel like what if it's a good idea? What if one day I'm on an airplane going through them and I
No, well, that's the thing is like you go through like some of these like I don't even realize that I have and like don't even remember from when these things came from. And like I look back and it's like 6 years ago and I'm like listening to it and I'm like, what? Like you sit there and think it's like, what was I even thinking this day? Like, what was I doing? Where did this come from? How did this come about? And like it's always crazy to like look at those deep ones to really see because sometimes there's hidden gems in there, but then sometimes you're just like, yeah, no, this thing has to get deleted forever and like get off the internet.
that's like I was saying with the airplane, just like my favorite thing to do when I fly because like usually there's no Wi-Fi and so I'll just like go through voice memos. Maybe it'll delete a few, but it's like I've had some old ones too be on a plane. It's just me going like la, la, la. Like what was this? Like why'd I do this? You know what I mean?
No, exactly. So kind of hopping into the fourth question, just to jump right to the point. It's always one of my favorite questions to ask on the show, and it's always the hardest question that I do ask. Obviously, as an artist, putting your music out there and going on TikTok, Instagram, and stuff like that, you're competing with a lot of other artists out there who are trying to do the same thing as you. They're trying to get their songs out there. They're trying to get their name out there and stuff like that just to really say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to do. But it's hard at the end of the day because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of artists out there doing the same thing. But at the end of the day though, you have all these amazing songs out, you're a super super talented artist, but for people that kind of really don't know who you are, but and then for the people that do know who you are, but what can we kind of take away from your music that we're not going to find in anyone else's music, and just what makes you you?
That is a tough question. I see what you mean when you say that other people pause when they hear this question.
Yep.
Um, I just feel like everyone's experiences are unique, and I feel like one thing that kind of separates me from other artists is I do take inspo from, Beatles, 70s music. I know that's like I don't know I don't want to call the Beatles basic, but like I feel like a lot of pop artists, or at least in the genre that I'm specifically in, because I'm not writing, folk music, I'm writing like indie pop music and dark pop. I feel like a lot of dark pop artists don't necessarily take inspo or pull inspo from the Beatles. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying like, oh, my music taste is so, unique and different. It's like I'm sure everyone's heard the songs that I've heard, but I just feel like the inspo that I pull is like more specific. Like, if that make does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just I'm pulling inspo from stuff that I don't think inspo would usually be pulled from. That's, I guess, one thing. Another thing, I know I read a lot of songs about heartbreak, but I just feel like sometimes I try to find, not even find, but just in my life, I try to write about specific details that I don't hear a lot about in other songs necessarily. So like I have a song called Toxic Love, and like, yeah, it's like, a lot of people have experienced that, but I try to, find details in like songs like that where it sounds a little bit different, or if it's something that's written about a lot, maybe writing about it with a different sort of sound in mind. So it just, I try to like make things different. Like if I find myself in a session or just writing by myself and it sounds too similar to a concept of another song and the melody, I try to like switch it up so it
Yeah.
doesn't sound, I guess that's something that sets me apart from other artists.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. I mean, just because you have a lot of songs out and it's super cool. I mean, obviously I was gonna name three of the songs anyway that are my favorites, and you already mentioned one right there is Toxic Love. And then Dirty Clothes, obviously, that's like your biggest one. That's one of my favorites. But then I would say honestly, my favorite out of listening to all of them kind of before we're getting on the interview and stuff like that is probably Backseat, honestly. Like
Really?
I vibe with that. Like I love the melody behind that. Like and just like I don't know what it is. That one just draws me in so much. But the thing about you is I could put you in a playlist of a million different artists. But at the end of the day is when your song comes on and like I'm not looking at my phone or something, like I know who that is. Like because that's just your music is just so different than anyone else's, and that's why I love having artists like you on the show, because you are just so versatile and you are different, and it's good to be different because you do stand out from the rest of these people because you have a lot of amazing styles and techniques that you use.
Oh, thanks. You like made my day. That makes me so happy. And what's super interesting, there's a few exciting things that I want to talk about based on what you just said. So
Yeah,
one, every of the songs that you said is different, which is super cool. So like Toxic Love, Backseat, and Dirty Clothes were all different producers, which is super interesting.
yeah.
Uh, which is cool because it means that I have a cohesive sound with different producers, which is like what I've always wanted. But I think I forgot to mention earlier too is I kind of genre hop a little bit. Like I feel like a lot of artists, it's common. I guess I'm a little more common to be in different genres now. But like I'm very indecisive, and I feel like that shows in my music. But it might not necessarily be a bad thing if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
really I don't know. Just some days I'm like, I really want to write. Like right now, my friend and I are writing like a psychedelic kind of, project we're making. But then it's also like I want to write an alternative pop song, and I also want to make, a folk song. And it's, a lot of people told me, back in 2018, I feel like being an independent artist was not as common. Like there was still a lot, but back then, I don't know if the same thing happened with you. People would be like, you have to find your sound. You have to pick a genre. Like you have to say you can't do that. And I was like, watch me, you know what I mean? It's like no one ever signed me. I never had a manager or anyone. I'm like, why am I trying to like conform to society and have like one consistent, genre? Because I realized that you can totally have a consistent sound. Even if like I have an EDM song, a house song, and then like a like ballad, but they still kind of have the same vibe. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. And honestly, you are literally preaching right now because that is what I like. That's what I love to tell artists is don't box yourself into one thing. Like there's four when you go on when you merge onto the highway, there's four lanes on the highway for a reason because you can go whichever lane you want and you can swerve into well don't swerve but put your directional on and go into the next lane, but you can go wherever you want and go your speed and do what you feel more comfortable in, but you have that opportunity to switch lanes and to do these different things. And it's just that's a big thing I always preach to artists is just saying don't box yourself in. There are so many opportunities no matter what kind of genre you're in, whether you're in country, pop, indie, folk, like whatever. Like you can mix these genres and you can kind of create more stuff than you ever realize. So it's always really cool when you just mention stuff like that.
Something that inspired me too, because I feel like in 2018, I was really trying to stick to the same. From 2018 to 2019, I was really just trying to stick to the same thing. Like I wanted to write other things, and I had written stuff for myself, but I was like, I'm not gonna put this out because it doesn't have anything to do with what I have out now. But I remember when I don't know if you listened to "When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go?" Billie Eilish's album, the one from 2019, the
Yeah.
black one. She said in an interview, and I never heard another artist say this, but she was like, I want anyone to play this album no matter what their music taste is and at least have one song they like on it. And I love that album. It's one of my favorite albums because every song is like almost like it's her vibe, but it's like a different kind of sound. And I thought that was so cool. And it's like I want to do that because it's like, I can't please everybody, but I want to. And like, I feel like I was really inspired by that to just kind of, start experimenting with, different sounds.
Yeah.
And
No, absolutely. And I mean, you have so many different sounds from all your different songs, like I've mentioned, and like it just that's really what makes you stand out. But kind of just looking towards the future a little bit for the last question here before we hear a little sneak peek from a new song that you're going to be releasing. Is what are some of your short-term and long-term goals, and just what else can we kind of expect down the road from you?
so I guess I'll just start with what to expect on the road because you had talked about backseat. So I'm releasing a song called Movie Kind of Love in February, but the vibe of Backseat is different than that. But so Movie Kind of Love is just a song I wanted to put out for a while, and because I got sick, it threw off my whole release schedule. But after Movie Kind of Love, like Backseat vibes is what to expect in
Oh,
2020. I'm really going for dark pop. I'm in my dark era. I'm in my like Taylor Swift Reputation era sort of vibe. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what I'm planning for 2023. I really wanted to release a song every month, and I'm super frustrated because I was literally sick like all month and at the end of December, so I didn't get a chance to, take the cover art for Jet. It's a whole thing. But
yep.
after February, I'm going for dark pop vibes. I'm trying to release a song every single month. I decided to take that route over a project route for now. Maybe at the end of the year, I'll kind of compile it into a little project or something. But for now, what to expect is dark pop vibes after Movie Kind of Love. So Movie Kind of Love is like my older stuff, and then I'm gonna go back to the dark pop vibes. And then in terms of short-term goals, I would say I just got my band back together from college, and I finally have a space to practice with them in. And I really want to start playing more live shows because I haven't really played any since before the pandemic. So that's the short-term goal for me. Long term, I really want to go on tour. I want to tour all over the world with my band and play festivals and just have an awesome time, That's
Yeah.
the dream.
No, exactly. And that's always what the dream is to go on tour, be famous, and do all that fun stuff. But I mean, definitely what you said about kind of going back to the backseat vibes, like that's obviously, like I said, that was definitely my number one for like the three songs that I mentioned. So like I am super excited and I can't wait to see what else comes for you.
I'm excited that you're excited about it. Because yeah, I was super excited to put that song out. That was actually the first song I made with one of my friends, Gavin. We literally met that day. We like hung out at the beach with his friends. I went to his apartment and we just wrote that song. And I had never done that. Like I never just written a song like that with a producer I literally just met. Like I didn't think we'd be able to get a song, but he's one of my favorite people to write with. And we got such a bang out of it. I'm so excited for all the other stuff we've been making, and I'm working with so many new producers right now, and I'm just so excited because I'm able to really, I feel like with each producer I have, there's a slightly different sound, but that'll be really cool because I'll be able to kind of, I work with three main producers, and now I'll be able to kind of have three new songs kind of, just each month, and I can kind of, I have more flexibility with when I'm releasing things, and I'm able to release more, and there's kind of a different sound, different vibes, they kind of all flow together, but it's like not too cohesive. I love it. I'm just excited about
No,
it.
and I'm super thrilled and I can't wait to hear more from you. But kind of getting to the good part of the interview is always hearing some live music.
Yeah.
So obviously we're listening to a little sneak peek of a song that's coming out soon, you said in February. And it's called Movie Kind of Love. Just kind of before we listen to that, if you want to just give a little backstory on kind of the song, where did this one kind of come about for you?
Wait, repeat that last part. You said
Yeah,
where did it?
yeah, just how did this song kind of come about for you? Like where did Movie Kind of Love just kind of how did that take off?
I have always been obsessed with rom-coms. I don't know if you're into rom-coms at all. I don't know if you've
Yep.
seen it, but I love movie cliches. Like I love I love corporate America during the holidays. Like I love Valentine's Day at Target. I love, cheesy little things, getting flowers. I love the like cliches of like putting your jacket, like a guy putting his jacket down, and someone else walking over a puddle so don't get their shoe, like just all those little things. And it's just like I feel like I went a long time in my life without having anything like that. I just was watching a bunch of rom-coms, and I was just like, I want that. You know what I just want the movie kind of, I don't care if it's unrealistic. I don't care if it doesn't make sense. Like, make it make sense. And I really just thought of like every single cliche I could think of, every part of one of my favorite movies in a rom-com, every, movie cliche. I just put it onto a song, and I was like, I want that. And yeah. It's just
No,
like,
and
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no, and that's awesome. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm super excited for this one, and I just like I said, I can't wait to see what else comes for you. So, obviously we'll take a quick listen to a little sneak peek. Obviously, you guys know I'm not playing the whole thing for you because one, it's not released yet, and two, once it is released, I want you to go listen to the full song. So, kind of without further ado, we are going to take a listen to Movie Kind of Love by Lola.
Just wanna know what it would feel like to be in films where the characters are not right. I wanna run the big bombs in my head, talk fast, take a shower, then you kiss me in the bed. And then we wake up and you kiss me, good morning. You make
So I'm gonna pause it there. That's a little sneak peek of Movie Kind of Love. I mean, I'm already excited just to go listen to the rest of that. Honestly, that just like I said, your vibes are just so cool. I love what you just how you make every song different, and it's just I can't like I said, I can't wait to see what else is gonna come for you down the road.
Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to put out music this year. I feel like I like finally know what I'm going for. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So kind of before I do my little outro here, is where can people go check you out on social medias and streaming platforms and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So my at on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is at music by Lola underscore. And then my artist name is all capitals LO space LA. So capital LO space capital LA. That's my artist name on all streaming platforms. And Movie Kind of Love comes out February 10th on all streaming services.
Awesome. So you guys heard that. So I mean, definitely be looking for February 10th for that to come out. That's called Movie Kind of Love, but kind of some other songs I was talking about earlier is Toxic Love, Backseat, Dirty Clothes. Definitely go check all those out by Lola. She's on all streaming platforms. Go check out her social medias. She's always posting stuff and getting ready for obviously this release, and I can't wait for that. But Lola, just thank you so much for kind of taking time out of your day to sit here and talk about your story through music.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I loved your questions.
No, of course. So that kind of concludes another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern. We got new music, new artists, new stories. Never know who's gonna pop through. We're getting to that 100 episode mark. So y'all stay tuned for next week, and thanks for tuning in today.